The leaf sheep sea slug is about 5 millimeters long, the size of a grain of rice. It has 2 cartoon eyes, a white rounded body, and a row of leaf-shaped green appendages running down its back that look like a tiny succulent plant. The internet correctly identified it as resembling a Pokemon character. It lives on reefs off the coasts of Japan, Indonesia, and the Philippines. Here is the part that should not be possible. It photosynthesizes. Animals do not photosynthesize, plants do. But the leaf sheep eats a specific type of green algae called Avrainvilia, and instead of fully digesting it, it does something remarkable. It strips out the chloroplasts, the tiny structures inside algae that capture sunlight and convert it into energy, and stores them inside its own body. Then those chloroplasts keep working, as long as the slug stays in shallow water. With access to sunlight, it is partially running on solar power. It stole from a plant. The process is called kleptoplasty, from the ancient Greek word for thief. This slug is stealing a plant's ability to eat sunlight and using it as a backup fuel source. No other animal in the ocean does this at a multicellular level. The bobbit worm lives buried under the reef floor. Its body can reach 3 meters in length with up to 1,500 body segments, and an iridescent exoskeleton that shimmers between purple, black, and metallic brown under light. It is one of the longest polychaete worms ever recorded. The largest specimen on record was 299 centimeters long, under 3 centimeters wide, 3 meters of worm, the thickness of a finger, living entirely beneath the sand. It burrows down into the sediment with its entire body, leaving only 5 banded antennae barely protruding above the surface. Those antennae carry both light and chemical receptors. When a fish swims over them, the worm feels it. What happens next happens faster than the human eye can track. The worm launches the front of its body from the burrow, everts a muscular jaw complex built like serrated scissors, and strikes. It can cut prey cleanly in half with a single snap. It then injects a toxin to stun or kill anything still moving, and drags the prey down into the burrow. Fossil burrows made by ancestral bobbit worms have been found in Taiwan dating back 20 million years. This ambush strategy is not new. It has been working for longer than most species alive today have existed, and studies have found that local fish populations actually develop mobbing behaviors against bobbit worms, surrounding the antennae and blowing jets of water to confuse the sensory system. At 600 to 800 meters below the surface, the barreleye fish is hovering completely motionless. It is 15 centimeters long, but its head is a transparent fluid-filled dome, and inside that dome, 2 large tubular eyes point straight upward, glowing an unmistakable green. The 2 small spots above its mouth that look like eyes are not eyes. Those are its nostrils. The actual eyes are the green orbs sitting inside the translucent skull, aimed at the sky above. For decades, the assumption was that these eyes were fixed in place, giving the fish only upward vision. In 2009, researchers managed to observe a live barreleye without the transparent dome collapsing, which is what happens when you bring one to the surface. They discovered the eyes can rotate inside the dome. The fish can pivot from looking straight up to looking directly forward within the same transparent skull. The green lenses are tinted with a yellow pigment that filters out sunlight, allowing the fish to distinguish between the faint blue light coming from the surface and the bioluminescent glow of other deep-sea animals. It uses this to steal food from the tentacles of siphonophores, hovering just beneath them and carefully picking off anything trapped there. The transparent dome is thought to protect its eyes from the siphonophore's stinging cells. While it does this, in approximately 5,600 dives, the barreleye has been spotted 9 times. It is one of the least observed vertebrate animals on the planet, and everything it does, from its rotating eyes to its transparent skull to its method of feeding, is something evolution seems to have arrived at completely independently from everything else. The pelican eel lives at depths between 500 and 3,000 meters in every tropical and temperate ocean on Earth. Its body is thin, whip-like, dark black, and can reach 1 meter in length. It has no scales, it has no swim bladder, it has no pelvic fins, its eyes are tiny and positioned near its snout, and its skull is small and largely structural. Everything else about the head belongs to the mouth. The jaw of the pelican eel can open wide enough to engulf prey larger than its own body. The lower jaw makes up roughly 1/4 of the entire body length. The mouth is loosely hinged, and when fully extended, it inflates like a pouch, exactly like the throat sac of a pelican. When the eel encounters a large target, it essentially becomes a bag with a tail attached. But here is the twist that makes this genuinely strange rather than just extreme. The jaw muscles are weak, the teeth are tiny. Despite having the most dramatic expandable mouth in the ocean, the pelican eel mostly eats small crustaceans, shrimp, squid, and small fish. The enormous mouth is not primarily for catching giant prey in a deep ocean where food is scarce and energy must be conserved above everything else. At the tip of its long, thin tail, the pelican eel has a small bioluminescent organ that glows pink and pulses with red flashes. Down in total darkness at 3,000 meters, that small light is a lure. The eel drifts through the dark, the tail curling near its own mouth, the light blinking, waiting. The giant Siphonophore is the longest organisms on Earth. Specimens have been measured at 40 to 50 meters in length. That is longer than a blue whale, longer than a basketball court. One specimen filmed in 2020 was estimated at 46 meters, making it the largest individual organism ever reliably recorded. And it is thin as a broomstick. But here is the thing that makes the Siphonophore unlike anything else on this list. It is not one animal, it is thousands. A Siphonophore is a colony of individual organisms called zooids. Each zooid is genetically identical, each is technically a separate living creature, but none of them can survive independently, and together they function as a single coordinated entity. Some zooids are shaped like swimming bells and provide propulsion by contracting in rhythmic pulses. Some are feeding organisms with tentacles and stinging cells that capture prey. Some handle digestion and distribute nutrients through shared fluid canals running the length of the colony. Some handle reproduction. When one of these animals is brought to the surface in a net, the hydrostatic pressure that holds the colony together at depth no longer applies. It bursts. It becomes an unrecognizable mass of gelatin, which is why it was not identified as a unique creature until the 19th century. The deepest confirmed sighting of any octopus ever recorded was in 2020. It was a Dumbo octopus at 6,957 meters below the surface in the Java Trench, where the pressure is over 600 atmospheres. The temperature hovers just above freezing, and no sunlight has ever reached. The Dumbo octopus is named after the Disney elephant because of the two large fins that protrude from either side of its mantle directly above its eyes and flap in slow rhythmic beats that look exactly like ears. Its body is semi-translucent, bell-shaped, roughly 20 to 30 centimeters long on average, pale and slightly gelatinous. It has webbed arms that spread outward like an umbrella. It has large eyes, and it navigates some of the most extreme conditions on the planet by gently flapping those fins in a motion that at 7,000 meters under the ocean. It has no ink sac. Nothing at that pressure moves fast enough for ink to be useful. It cannot do the jet propulsion that most octopuses rely on for escape. Instead, it drifts slowly above the seafloor, using the fins for steering and position, occasionally pulsing its webbed arms to change direction. There are 13 to 17 recognized species in the genus, depending on the classification being used, and almost nothing is definitively known about how any of them reproduce, how long they live, or how many of them exist. Most of what we know comes from rare ROV footage.